This is the Young Bucks.
And you're listening to the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. Too sweet me.
My guest this week is a man with a very, very interesting gimmick. Probably the best name in professional wrestling. And we've had some big Ring of Honor stars on the show, from Chris Sabin, Colt Cabana, the Young Bucks, Taylor Hendricks, and also Cedric Alexander, who was in Ring of Honor. But right now I want to bring on the Ring of Honor star, the Beer City Bruiser, a big man that comes to the ring with a keg on his shoulder and a cigar in his mouth. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Now, I know you've probably been asked this question a lot, and I know you probably told this story, but I haven't heard the story. How did the name Beer City Bruiser come to fruition?
It actually came about when I moved back to Milwaukee from Missouri after training with Harley Race. I was going under my real name, Matt Winchester. And there was another guy here who was kind of floundering around mid-card and stuff, and his name was Nick Colucci. And he says, "Hey, man, we should form a tag team. Like, I'm not really doing anything. I'm sick of not being used on shows and stuff. You just came back. I want to learn from you." I says, "All right." So we started tagging. And I said, "We need a really cool tag team name." I said, "What should we do?" He's like, "I don't know." He's like, normally people, when they come up with gimmicks, is you times 10. I said, "Yeah, but all we do is drink beer and fight." He goes, "Well, there it is." He says, "Well, we're from Milwaukee, which is the beer city." And I was like, "Yeah, and we, we hit people with bruises." So we were originally called the Beer City Bruisers. Well, he eventually got out of the business, and I just kind of adapted the name myself. So when I went to the Ring of Honor tryout camp, they loved the name. They're like, the Beer City Bruiser, that's it. And that's how the name had been around as a tag team, but then I changed it into my singles name, and with the help of Steve Carino, we came up with the keg and the cigar as a tribute to the Crusher, and it's just been taken off ever since then.
Now you're a big man, and it seems like nowadays, and I know you've been in the business for close to 16 years, and we'll talk about that as well. But the stigma when surrounding a big guy. They don't have the look, you see a big guy, they don't have the agility or the stamina. It just seems like there's a negative, stereotype when you see a big man like yourself get in the ring. Is that something you had to maybe overcome during your career, or is that something that's not even, the front of your mind?
I've always had to overcome the big man stuff. When I was first starting out, it was, "Oh, you're too fat, you need to lose weight. Oh, you don't look like a wrestler." 'Cause it was, you had to be a bodybuilder to look like a wrestler. And I kept saying to myself, back in the day, the 70s and 80s, like, wrestlers looked like me. You know what I mean? There were guys that when you were in a bar, if you saw Dick the Bruiser sitting across from you didn't want to pick a fight with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he just looked like a guy you didn't want to fight. And it had all changed. So I prided myself on, I'm in the gym, I work out every day. I was going to a wrestling camp, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I'm like, I'm going to get my cardio and my stamina up to prove to them that, I'm not a typical bodybuilder looking guy, but I can go. I can keep up with the little guys. I can keep up with the bigger guys. And I can do things that you don't think of when you think of a big man. And so I really, really worked hard at it. I mean, I went through years of constantly hearing, "You need to drop weight, you need to do this." And finally, when I got back from Harley's, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make my character and my career the way I want it. I'm gonna prove people wrong, and I'm gonna bring the body image to be, you know what? Yeah, he's a big guy, but man, can he go?
Yeah.
And I wanted to change that stigma about big men. I want to kind of get it back to people thinking like it was back in the 70s, where, he's a bigger guy, but man, I don't want to get in a fight with that guy,
Yeah. And I think it also, correlates to, I'm a bigger guy myself, but it correlates to the average wrestling fan too. Hey, you have that side where it's a bodybuilding, it's a guy that you may not look like yourself ever, not yourself, but also like for the fan. And you see like guys like that. You also see like guys like CM Punk who are, smaller stature as well. But you see a guy like yourself, guys who, look like you or bigger guys can put themselves in your shoes and picture themselves doing those stuff in the ring that you do. And you do some aerial stuff, here and there. So you're not only a brawling style, you have the stamina agility that, hey, guys like you that are fans of your stature can say, hey, I can, if he can do that, I can live vicariously through him.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like I said, I wanted to reinvent the body image again, and but I mean, look at who some of the top guys are now. Like Kevin Steen's a Universal Champion, and he's a bigger guy.
Yeah,
but he can do things in that ring that most little guys can't even do.
Yes, yeah, and I think it's more of professional wrestling as a whole. And I love talking about the like you mentioned, like the 70s and 80s style, and the more believability when it was actually called wrestling and not sports entertainment, to where a big guy can go in there, no matter what he looks like. I don't want to get in a fight with him. It's believable when he wins, and it's not really believable when you have a guy like Rey Mysterio defeating the Batista. Like in real life, that probably shouldn't happen, but it's having the being believable and telling a story, a believable story, and not kind of pulling the wool over the fans' eyes. It's actually telling a story, believable, and getting a crowd and a fan behind you.
And I'm also a fan of too, where if you go and you watch a wrestling show, you don't want to sit and see 6 or 7 matches of the same type of stuff.
Yeah.
Over and over. I mean, you'll get bored with that. So I don't mind going to a wrestling show, and in the first match you have a couple high flyers that are flying, and maybe the second show is a comedy match, and then the third match is, two big guys just pounding on each other. So then by the time you get to the main event, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And on the show, I know you don't listen, but whatnot. But we talk about Lucha Underground and how, as a big guy, I don't like the whole a show based around flippy stuff and all that. And I think there's a place on it for a show, but when a show is designated as one thing, it kind of turns me off because I want to see a little bit of comedy. I want to see a little bit of the flippy stuff. I want to see brawlers, but I think it's changed to where different promotions are catering to one kind of fan. It's just there's a lot for everybody, but still it's like maybe there's a little bit too much of it going around.
Right.
You've been in the business for close to 16 years, and a lot of people probably don't know that about you because you're just making your name now in Ring of Honor on a higher level. But how, if you could really describe 15 years ago the state of wrestling business and you breaking in, and just over the years of it changing and whatnot, I mean, it has to be night and day from 15 years ago, or maybe it's not.
There's certain aspects that of the wrestling business that are different. When I first started out, wrestling was on the decline. The indie shows weren't drawing. WWE wasn't drawing. The Attitude Era had just ended. WCW had shut down or was being shut down. ECW was gone. So it was that dark period of wrestling. And now I've noticed in the last 2 years, because of the success of NXT and Ring of Honor, the wrestling business is back on the rise again, where the indie shows are doing well, Vince is doing well, Ring of Honor is doing fantastic. And in the last 16 years, you can see those up and downs, and you can see in the beginning, it was more tell a story in the ring, you can wrestle and work a hold for 5-10 minutes, where now with wrestling, people want to see those high spots. They want to see a few flips here or there. Like, they just don't want to see a regular arm reversal. They want to see a cartwheel into a backflip into an arm reversal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And what I really pride myself on is I'm able to evolve as a wrestler. I think in order to be a successful wrestler, you have to evolve with the times. When I first broke in, you had so many vets that were just stuck in that 1980s old school storytelling matches, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just nowadays they want to see the storytelling, but they also want to have some of those big moves thrown in there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think in order to be relevant, and the reason I think that I've been able to be successful is I'm able to evolve and adapt to that. You know, I mean, when I started with Ring of Honor, I'd already been in the business 14 years. You know, and when I did the tryout camp, everyone was like, "Are you sure you want to do that? It's not really your style." And I said, "Well, yeah. I mean, I want to give it a try. I'm always open to any opportunity, and it's paid off. You know, and I think that's because I'm open to learning that new style and listening to guys like Christopher Daniels and Steve Carino, guys that have started in the older style but have evolved their characters and their mentality to become this new hybrid wrestling."
It's interesting because I talk to a lot of guys who are your age, and I'm 33, so I've been a fan for close to 20 years myself. But you talk to older guys who've been in the business for 15 years, and I love the old school mentality. I love the like you mentioned, like the 70s and 80s, and not just the look of guys, but the mentality of. And I think one thing, and I'm not sure if you agree or not, because you ran shows, you're a promoter, correct?
I'm a booker for a company called Bruiser Wrestling here.
Okay.
And, it's in a suburb of Milwaukee called West Dallas, Wisconsin.
So
the owner of the company and promoter is Frankie DeFalco, old AWA guy.
So I mean, so you I mean, obviously you work in the behind the scenes action of a wrestling promotion and whatnot. Is there like a disconnect from maybe the younger generation to where they're so worried about hitting their spots and remembering a whole match and the spots and not forgetting that maybe they do forget to connect with the crowd and take their time and stop and pause and work on the character more than just, okay, I need to hit this spot and then this spot and then this spot. I see that in locker rooms now. Is that something you encounter, especially being a veteran?
I've seen some of that, being a vet, and I'm the bookers for the Bruiser Wrestling. I'm also a head trainer at the Thumper's Den Wrestling Academy, and I've seen that where a lot of students or a lot of young guys will say, "Hey, can you watch my match?" And then when I watch the match, I'll bring up stuff like that, and they'll kind of look at me funny because they're used to seeing my Ring of Honor stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys don't understand. This isn't indie scene. These people don't know who you are. You have to be able to get a character across for these people to know who you are before you start doing all the cool stuff. You have to have emotion. You have to have people emotionally invested in you. And I've noticed there's a lot of this newer generation, the schools and stuff that these kids are coming out of, they're forgetting to teach that.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? And thank God there's guys out there like myself, Silas Young, against Steve Carino. There's a guy up in this area named Dysfunction, who, when we watch these young guys' matches, the first thing we bring up is you need some sort of character. You need something, and if you do the Ring of Honor tryout camp, that's the first thing they want to see is a character. So many guys think Ring of Honor wants to see these moves and stuff. No, they tell you the very first thing they want to see is, can they market you? Can they put you on TV? Can they build a storyline around you? In order to do that, you need a character. So when we tell these kids, I'd say about 90% of the time, the newer kids are open to it, but you do get some of those guys that, "Oh, what are you talking about? You don't know." And those are the guys that just kind of flounder. You know what I mean? That are just going to be successful in their hometown, and that's it. Where the other kids, there's a kid up here named Tyler Sunday who does like an ice cream man gimmick, and before he did the Ring of Honor camp, he asked my advice. Man, make sure when you're there, you really push the ice cream thing. You come out, he comes on, he hands ice cream bars to the fans, and he when he throws punches, he names different flavors of ice cream, and it's a fun character. So when you did the Ring of Honor camp, they were like, "We love the character, but your gear needs to reflect it. It should be sparkly and shiny,
Yeah.
So he came back, and the first thing he did is he called up a gear maker, Paulie Tomaselli in the area, and he said, "Hey, man, this is what I need." And now he looks the part, he acts the part, and he's that good new generation of kids that are open to hearing you need a character instead of the moves. Character first, move second.
Yeah. I totally agree. And it's, I do some commentary for the local promotion AIW here in Cleveland in the locker room, and you see, the students from the local, school, are so worried about, their moves and spots, which is great. You want to, hit those spots, but then you get out in the ring and they're just not, their face isn't up. They're not connecting. They don't even take the time. They're the entrance. They go in, do their match, and then they leave. I feel, and like I said, with you being a veteran, me seeing that, I haven't worked a match. I've never been in a match, but, I feel like, hey, I can, at least can tell what a person needs to work on. I feel like that's the biggest thing in this younger generation is spot more than just slowing down, working the crowd. And when you see a match when you see a show and you have some veterans that are, working in WWE and they're doing the indie scene now, that they work the crowd, they play the heel, they play the face. The match starts, 5 minutes after they get on the ring because they're working the crowd, taking the mic. It's just a lost art, man.
Yeah, it is, and it's such a fun art too. I love interacting with the crowd. I mean, when we do Ring of Honor, when we do TV and stuff, of course we have to work the cameras more than we work the crowd. But our house shows, man, they encourage us, and it's so fun to get. I mean, I'm a fan of getting under someone's skin. If I'm a heel, if I'm the bad guy, I love getting people so riled up that they absolutely hate my guts.
Yeah.
And you don't do that with moves. You know what I mean? You do that with the interaction with the crowd. And I think that's some of the funnest part of wrestling is doing that. If I can get someone to hate my guts so much, and they just literally met me 2 minutes before, but they hate my guts so much they're willing to, throw their $4 beer at me, well, then I'm doing my job right,
Yeah. That's like the biggest, I would assume that's like the biggest rush. And you play a face in Ring of Honor, obviously, but I mean, could the Beer City Bruiser be legit full blown heel? How would that work?
I'm actually when I'm doing indies and stuff, a lot of places I get booked as a heel.
Yeah.
And it's actually a lot of fun. I do a lot of different things to get heel heat. And when I'm tagging with Silas, it's just so easy because his character, the Last Real Man, I mean, he's literally challenging guys' manhood. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm there too. And it's like when he's telling people, there's this fat, toothless guy who's more manly than you, that gets people riled up.
Oh, yeah.
On TV so much, we obviously got to do the direction they want us to go, but our heel stuff really doesn't change too much, because our characters are so, what I mean? Like, being the Beer City Bruiser, I drink and I fight. That's my character. Whether I'm a heel or a babyface, I'm going to beat you up and I'm going to have a beer afterwards and I'm going to enjoy it. If I'm a babyface, you're going to probably have the beer with me. Or if I'm a heel, I'm going to kind of just be by myself and make fun of you the whole time,
Yeah. That's good to have that verse, I mean, not getting booked on the indie scene and also being on TV. It's good that, I mean, you're a veteran, but it's good to have that versatile when you have that character that you can do both and be effective doing both, whenever you're booked.
I think when young guys are coming up with characters, they need to think of that.
Yeah.
Here's my character, and like again, I keep bringing this kid up because he's such a good kid, but that's Tyler Sunday. When he came up with the gimmick, he asked me advice because somebody wanted to turn me. I says, well, what do? I hand ice cream to people. How can you boo a guy who's giving you free ice cream? So he came up with a thing where he'd come out with the ice cream sandwich, just one, and he'd walk up, he'd find the littlest kid in the crowd, and he'd walk up and hand him the ice cream sandwich at the last minute. He'd take it away and take a bite out of it. I go, man, now you're the biggest dick in the world because you found literally the smallest kid in the crowd. Where you give him free ice cream and you took it away at the last second, and now you're handing out diabetes pamphlets to his parents. I mean, that's heel heat, and I said that's why you're going to be good in this business, is because you're willing to be versatile like that.
Yeah.
You're willing to think of here's my babyface character, here's my heel character.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's a lost start. But you're 38 years old, man. I know you've done some WWE, TNA, working some matches for them. what's the end game for you? I know you're picking up steam here. You're getting more noticed. Your gimmick is working. But you're 38, and that's it's you're not exactly a young guy. So what's the end game for you personally?
My end game is I'll always be in the wrestling business. My wife and I always joke, that I'm going to die in a wrestling ring, and I said, well, that's the dream. No, but my end game is I want to. I've been booking for Bruiser Wrestling for a few years now. I'm having a blast learning that side. Frankie DeFalco is a great promoter where he actually promotes, and he's teaching me the business side, how to go get sponsors, how to get ticket outlets, how to, find buildings and talk to venues. So I'm learning that aspect of it. In Ring of Honor, I'm listening to, we have agents and stuff that help us out.
Yeah.
And Steve Carino's been my mentor since, the first time I met him, 15 years ago. And he's always a text message away from me where I'm bugging him left and right. So I know I want to eventually evolve into like an agent role and possibly even a booking role. An agent role for sure within Ring of Honor or even WWE or something like that. I got to school now with unforeseen Wrestling Academy, and Frankie DeFalco trusted me to be the head trainer there. And I'm using all the aspects of everything that I've learned throughout my career, training with Harley, training with Trevor Adonis, who broke me in, training with Terry Funk, learning from the guys at Ring of Honor, and I'm having a blast showing the future generation, how to apply all this and using the different aspects of what I learned to teach them. And I do see it, I will always be involved in wrestling, whether it be a teacher, a booker, an agent, something. My body is getting beat up. It's getting sore. So I know my in-ring has a time limit, but I don't think my mind will slow down anytime soon.
If you could, yeah, I'm sorry. If you could,
no, go ahead.
If you could tell your, 23-year-old, 24-year-old self, if you can go back and offer him one piece of advice when he was, obviously, young Matt was breaking in the business, what would you tell him?
I tell him to be careful with the bumps he's taking and stay away from the deathmatch stuff. When I first broke in, again, we were talking about the body image, and I was a big, 300-pound fat kid, but I could bump and I could sell. So I would literally bump anywhere, whether it be outside the ring in a gym floor or a parking lot or, on some grass at a festival. I'd bump everywhere. And, I did the deathmatch stuff early on in my career because that was what was popular at the time, But I'd go back and I'd tell myself, hey, you're going to become 30 years old and all that stuff, the way you feel right now is going to go away, and all your injuries are going to catch up and all the, all these bumps will take a toll on you.
Yeah.
So I definitely say, you don't need to bump as much as you're doing those crazy stuff, get your character across, slow it down, tell a story, prolong your ring style, save the big bumps for the big shows. Yeah.
That's like when I ask that question to some of the veterans, that's like the popular answer is, watch the bumps, watch your body. It's because like you're getting the business, you want to make an impact right away. You want to, turn some heads, and, bumps are the way to do it, sometimes. So it's hard to not do it, but then again, you kind of, 10 years later, you're feeling it.
Yeah, exactly. And, when I was, like I said, when I first started out, I was a big kid that had to prove myself. And now that I'm, one of the big things that Ring of Honor has really taught me is how to protect my size. Like I've always known how to protect my size, but the Ring of Honor has really taught me how to make guys work for bumping me, and they'll get a bigger payoff in the end. So I'm only taking maybe one or two bumps, but the way we build the story around that guy bumping me is a bigger pop than it is just the way I was doing it.
Yeah.
So if I can go back and teach 23-year-old me that, man, I'd be gold.
Now, I know you worked some WWE, dark matches and whatnot, and I always ask this to people who, are, have worked with WWE in a full time or even, some matches here and there, but do you have a meet Vince McMahon story?
Yeah, actually I do. I have a great neat Vince McMahon story.
Let's hear it.
My very first time doing WWE extra work was for Simon Dean's debut.
Okay.
The way this all came about was I was at an indie show. I had just got done working with Chris Candido, and I was actually getting ready to work him. I worked on Friday night. This was a Saturday night, and Mr. Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, Ken Kennedy, he's from the same area I was, and I was kind of sitting with a buddy of mine, and Ken was pacing around. And my buddy looks at me and goes, "Man, you're looking real fat today. Man, look how fat you are." And I'm going, what is your problem? I've lost weight. Like, what are you doing? And Ken goes, oh, hey. And he runs away, and he comes back and goes, "Hey, do you want to be on Raw on Monday?" I'm like, yeah, who doesn't want to be on Raw on Monday? But here's Tommy Dreamer's number. Give him a call. They're going to book you for this segment with Simon Dean. I said, okay. So I get booked to the spot, and we show up, and we're doing everything, and they find out that not only can I bump and stuff like that, but I can talk. I can cut a promo. So they're rewriting stuff. Well, then it comes down to they wanted to know what I was going to tell you. What it was, I was a plant in the crowd. Remember, he used to come out and make fun of everybody, and then, on this particular night, he was just going to say something too far. I jumped the railing, got in the ring, was going to, get in his face. So they were deciding what I was supposed to wear when I was in the crowd, and they're like, well, let's go talk to Vince. Let's get Vince's approval. So it's me, Simon Dean, Michael Hayes, and Vince McMahon. And we're all sitting there. And I remember walking there, and Nova looks at me, Simon Dean, he goes, "You nervous?" I says, "Well, yeah, I'm nervous. I'm about to go meet Vince McMahon." He goes, "Don't worry, we're all still really nervous." And we get up, and we're going over the segment and stuff. And like I said, the Friday and Saturday, I'd worked Chris Candido, and I gotten chopped a ton. So my chest was just hammered to meat. And they introduced me to Vince and whatnot. Vince goes, "Well, are you okay with taking your shirt off? I think you should wear a button-down shirt. Are you okay with taking it off?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "You're a big kid. They're going to talk about your man boobies." And he jiggles my man boobies and stuff. I'm like, "Yes, sir, that's fine."
Wait, hold on. He jiggled your man boobies?
Oh, yeah, he jiggled them. And he says, "Well, why don't you take your shirt off?" I said, "All right, well, I'm going to warn you. I got chopped a lot this weekend, so I got, bruises all over my chest, and I take it off." He's like, "Oh, that's okay, We'll just refer to it as gonorrhea or something like that." And everybody instantly sitting there, and they all want to correct them, but nobody wants to correct them. You know what I mean? Like, Vince, you don't get gonorrhea on your chest.
Yeah.
Nobody said anything. We just all kind of chuckled, and he says, "All right, that's what we'll do." So I went and I did the spot, and afterwards he came up and he was laughing and says, "Oh, that was perfect. Great job, kid." And, the cool thing about Vince is once he knows your name, he never forgets. And every time since then, I'd walk up, I'd make sure I go up and say hi to him. And I'd be there with numerous different extra talents, and I'd be like, "Hey, you want to see something cool?" I walk up, "Hi, Mr. McMahon." And he's, "Oh, man, how's it going?" and stuff. And people just look at me. I'm like, "Yep, Vince knows me."
So I'm watching the segment right now on YouTube. So what did Simon say that it was on your chest? What did he say? Did he mention it?
Oh, yeah, he mentions it. I don't remember. We said something about how he has a Simon cream that can take care of that whatever's on my chest. So yeah, they do reference it in the promo.
Yeah, and this is great. I watching as a kid, remember this, and I'm watching it right now as you're describing it. That's pretty. I mean, who could say Vince McMahon play with my man boobies? Exactly. So how is that for you? I mean, obviously you're in the business, you're doing your thing, but you're on Raw. You're taking a bump on Raw. That had to be not starstruck, but just like, I don't even know the words to describe it. I mean, what was it like, basically?
It was an amazing time. It was my first time there. I was a nervous wreck. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, but yet you want to make sure you make an impression. And it was nerve-wracking, and it was fun, and I had every emotion in the book going on that day. You know what I mean? And then I remember sitting in the crowd, and And they're like, okay, when you see the Simon System sign come down, that's the beginning of your segment. And if you look, it's almost like an hour and a half into the show.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm trying not to be nervous because I don't want to let on to people that I'm a plant. But I'm nervous, and then this all happens, and they take me in the back, and I remember Chris Jericho really liked it a lot. He came up and he shook my hand, and again, Vince really liked it, and it was so surreal, and every time I get WWE, I'd get nervous, and like I said, it was that time I just remember I ran through like every emotion in the book. So
yeah,
it was a blast.
That's awesome, man. That's a good first, better than a lot of people who had their quote unquote Raw debut for WWE. That's great. That's an awesome play with your man move. I'm just picturing Vince do this. It's just hilarious.
And if you watch the spot, like Simon jiggles my boobs too. So
yeah, I saw that too. Yeah. But yeah, that's terrific, and also you're a good sport about all that too. So it's great.
Well, you know what? It's wrestling. It's entertainment. It's fun. So if you have to make a fool of yourself, if Vince McMahon is the one telling me to do it, I'm going to do it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like.
All right. I know we can talk for a couple hours, but I know I got to let you go. I'd love to have you come back on the show again, man.
Definitely.
All right. You can find the Beer City Bruiser on Ring of Honor on TV. They can follow you on Twitter. What's your official Twitter name, man?
My official Twitter is @BCB Winchester. My Facebook page is the Beer City Bruiser. And then I have a Pro Wrestling Tees store. It's prowrestlingtees.com/Beer City Bruiser.
There you go. There he is, man. The Beer City Bruiser right here on This Is Awesome Wrestling Show.